What would happen if the Fed eliminated their balance sheet? Who would be there to buy the garbage that they hold? What if the Fed sees weakness and stops their tightening policy? Could the collapse really be prevented? You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today I have a hopefully quick video to show you what's going on with the Fed. I'm going to talk about different issues that we could face in the near future. So many things to cover, not enough time, so let's begin with this. Macquarie is an Australian financial firm, and they had this to say: markets tell Fed tightening must stop. Financial markets are flashing a warning sign to the Federal Reserve that the global economy cannot withstand its monetary tightening and will, in coming months, force a halt to the campaign. So that's what this individual from Macquarie had suggested. I do agree that if they do not want to cause a crash, they have to continue to print money. The problem is the Federal Reserve right now is destroying money by letting some of its bond holdings mature without replacement. They will be forced at some point in time over the next 3 to 6 months to stop producing the size of their balance sheet. He just claimed that within 2018 they're going to have to stop the QT policy, quantitative tightening. Will they do it? I don't know. I think that there could be some drying up of the liquidity that we saw 10 years ago. We saw before that and before that and before that. Okay, so they do this often in order to intentionally cause a crisis. They consistently do it, so we'll see. Now this right here is very, very funny. I actually laughed out loud. We were talking about the Federal Reserve, criticisms come in here. And in this paragraph is where I had to laugh. I'm not thrilled. He's referring to the Federal Reserve increasing interest rates. Because of course, as interest rates increase, it becomes more difficult to do business and you tend to have recessions. Okay, so he knows that. Because we go up, and every time you go up, they want to raise rates again, which, by the way, has been the policy for years and years. They've been talking about it. Only started just recently. I am not happy about it. But at the same time, I'm letting them do what they feel is best. And that's just, it's funny. Because the Federal Reserve has complete control to do whatever they want. They can literally do anything they want, and they do not ask permission from anybody. This institution is above the governments. The Federal Reserve, the Bank of Canada. Look at any central bank. They're above governments. Even Alan Greenspan said, "We do not have anybody who can tell us what to do." He said it himself. He was being interviewed and said that. And that is, in fact, accurate. Now, what does any of the branches of government have the knowledge of what the Fed is doing behind the scenes? None of them. They do not know. There is no transparency at all. They don't talk to each other to make decisions. I'm sure there can be some sway back and forth, but look, even the chair, you can get rid of the chair, that's fine. But the decisions are made by a group of people, not one individual. So it doesn't really matter. That's the way it works. You get rid of Powell, put somebody else in. It doesn't matter. There's so many people there that are making the votes. And the shareholders of the Fed are really the ones making the votes. Never believe what you're told on the surface level, okay? This institution is being controlled at multiple levels of secrecy, okay? So we think that it's the Congress and, all the different systems that we see of government, but look beyond that. And we can see that, for example, the Federal Reserve. Who knows what they're doing behind the scenes? We don't really know. But the Federal Reserve goes even one step further because we have levels within the Fed, so we can see who the Fed presidents at the different locations are, going through all of that. But who are the shareholders? Right, so we can go deeper and deeper and deeper. All right. Annual budget deficits will rise nearly $100 billion more than previously forecast in each of the next 3 years, pushing the federal deficit above $1 trillion starting next year. There's no way that this is ever going to come down. It seems as though you have the suggestion that they're going to be spending money, no matter which government it is. They're going to be spending money on this place and that place. And hey, that person over there, they're going to waste money. We're going to save money. Of course, we're going to end up spending more in total, but we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to save money on this and that. They're always going to spend more money. Look at this on the city level. I know for myself in Toronto, they're telling us they're going to save on this tax and that tax. You're not going to have to pay that. And people vote for it. People eat it up. But your bills never go down. Your total yearly or monthly expenses don't decrease. Maybe for a short period of time, if anything. Now, this article here gets into some details, but very quickly, the current bull market in stocks is a month or so away from becoming the longest in history. Many along Wall Street expected the rally that began in March 2009 ended with it's going into the eclipse of 2000. It ended with the dot-com crash. A growing number of experts are questioning whether the stock market's run will keep going through 2019 and beyond. We got the trade issues, we got everything that's happening. So this right here, article out of the AP, gets into the different possibilities, the yield curve, inflation, debt, and so on. I'm not going to cover all these because I do on a regular basis, but if you want to read a rather good article out of the AP, then I will have the link in the description. Judging by the number of Americans on food stamps, it doesn't feel like one of the best job markets in almost half a century and the second longest economic expansion on record. So we can see that this has come down significantly, the amount of people on food stamps, numbers-wise, definitely. But as it says here, but as a share of the population, it's just back to where it was as the economy emerged. Back to where it was as the economy emerged from the longest and deepest downturn since the Great Depression. So we are still at a very, very bad level. And that needs to be understood. The amount of people that are on food stamps today, it's 40 million. 40 million people. 40 million people today in the United States, a population greater than Canada, is able to eat because the government gives them this, food stamps. 40 million. And I'm sure there's abuse going on. I'm sure that not all of the 40 million need it, but still 40 million. What's it going to be? 35 million? 30 million even? It's still a significant number, no matter how you look at that. And it's really unfortunate because it's, number one, expensive, and number two, there's better ways to do this. There's better ways to actually fix the problems. Fix them for what they are. This here is an interesting chart. Essentially, the Fed funds rate minus the CPI year over year, and we are technically in negative territory. That's unbelievable when you think about it. I don't necessarily like to factor this in too much, but I saw it, wanted to show you that. Moving on. If you can believe it or not, the three horsemen, if you want to call them that, got together and had a little discussion. And that is, if I remember correctly, Geithner, Paulson, and Bernanke, all of them together, had a few things to say. They were upset. They knew that the public was upset about bailouts. And this was their response. The three agreed that one of their mistakes during the crisis was failing to adequately explain publicly why billions in bailout dollars were being provided to the big banks whose executives were able to keep their huge bonuses even though they ran the institutions that caused the crisis. The three asserted that they had no choice but to use taxpayer money to stabilize the financial institutions, money that was eventually repaid. Yeah, right. Because the only alternative would have been to allow the entire banking system to collapse. Please bring it on. With far graver consequences for the country. The public was angry. They wanted to see us, if not punish the banks, then put limits on the bonuses. I was totally ineffective at having the American people understand what we were doing was for them, not for Wall Street. They actually said this, and people believe it. And it's truly sad. If you're in New Jersey, I truly, truly feel your pain. I feel your pain. It's a heavily taxed area. New Jersey has, I'm sure there's a long list of positive things. But when I look at it from the financial point of view, it's hard to look at. Never short on ideas for things to tax, lawmakers in New Jersey are considering a tax on tap water. My God. I can't believe this. Well, let's just be clear about that though. According to Bob Smith, who is trying to say it's not actually a tax, it's a user fee. It's a user fee based on volume. It would add 10 cents for every 1,000 gallons of water a home uses. It's going to add only $32 a year to the average water bill. Water is in abundance. The world is made up of mostly water. It seems as though we shouldn't have as much of a difficulty finding clean water, but certain corporations continuously pollute the water supply through many means: nuclear waste, toxic dumping, and all sorts of different methods that are being used today to pollute the water. And why? There are other means, but corporate profits is number one. That's what's holding people back from getting cheaper water. It's so polluted. And of course, companies make a good living. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. And if you want the financial education you were not taught in schools, these two books have it all. You can get the details. Links are in the description below. Take care.